Good morning and welcome back to another episode of the Platform Marketing Show. I'm joined today by Carrie Denny, who's coming at you from Huntsville, Alabama.
Hello, happy to be here.
So we just were talking for, 60 seconds before we hit record. And I just had the mind blown moment where if you would have saw me before we were recording, I just had my eyes like deer in the headlights, like, what? Because what we're going to talk about is one of those stories today that if you weren't seeing Carrie talk about this and you can Google Carrie Denny, she's a real person, it almost doesn't sound real, the success that she's created in the last year. So I just want to start this episode before I even ask Carrie a single question. I want to start this episode by just laying some groundwork of the facts, and then we'll dive into how Carrie has created the success that she has created. So Carrie, just a year ago, was a realtor in Colorado Springs. She was a very successful agent in Colorado Springs. She was selling over 100 homes a year. So not just, oh, yeah, she's doing pretty well. She's doing extremely well. For sure, top 1% of agents if you're selling over 100 homes a year. So extremely talented, moves to a brand new city, brand new state, not even anywhere near Colorado Springs, right? So it's not like you had some friends of friends or whatever. You moved to Huntsville, Alabama, which, if you look at a map of the United States, is nowhere near Colorado Springs. What took you to Huntsville, by the way?
My husband's job, it was pretty much either Colorado or Huntsville. Those were our choices, and we just
Are
wanted
you a
to.
military
Yes,
family or?
military family, yeah.
Okay.
He was in the military, but he works for the Army now.
Okay.
Yeah, so just wanted to move to the South and get a new start with things. Yeah.
I know that area is absolutely booming over the last
Mhm.
decade, Huntsville. It's honestly this huge up and coming town that no one knows about it yet, but it's like one of the best kept secrets in the South.
Yeah.
All right. So you moved from Colorado Springs to Huntsville. And the year that we're recording this, I always try to preface when I go on these rants, is that we're recording this in late 2024, almost 2025 when we're actually recording this. So for those who may be listening to this podcast episode a year or two in the future, the real estate market absolutely sucks right now. And it has sucked for the last couple years. Transaction volume is at like historic lows. I co-own a mortgage company next to Platform, and mortgage originations are the lowest levels they've been since they've been tracking it in the last 40 years. Right now, if you think it's bad in real estate, a lot of the real estate transactions that are going on are new builds, where the new builder lenders are obviously subsidizing the interest rates and giving all sorts of credits for whatever to get the inventory sold. And there's a lot of cash buyers too. So that leaves the actual traditional home buyer who's getting a conventional loan or whatever. There's very few of those going on. So I just
Right.
want to preface all this by saying the market is very bad right now. And that's just an objective fact, right? That's not even a hot take. It's just everyone knows it. No matter what metric or statistic you look at, the real estate market is not doing well. And I want to bring that up because that makes Carrie's story that much more impressive, that she moved from Colorado Springs to Huntsville, Alabama, where she didn't know a ton of people, didn't have an existing sphere there. You weren't born and raised there, right? You
No,
didn't
I
have.
actually didn't know anybody.
Okay, so did not know anyone
Yeah.
in Huntsville, Alabama, starts over in a new city. Again, it's not like moving from Colorado Springs to Pueblo or Colorado Springs to Denver, where you're somewhat adjacent and you might know some people still. It's entirely new city state, new time zone, new teams to cheer for in sports, like totally different vibe. And you've already sold over 60 homes this year. You
Mhm.
have enough pending that you'll probably finish the year above 75 closed transactions. And it's your first full year in Huntsville, Alabama.
Mhm.
You're probably going to close 75 transactions this year in your first year in Huntsville, Alabama. So before I start asking questions and I finish this epic rant to start this podcast episode, I just want to state the obvious here, that what this proves to me, what this shows me, is that it's not the market conditions, it's not the circumstances, it's the agent, right? It's the wizard, not the wand.
Mhm.
And so often people, I think, we tell ourselves narratives, we tell ourselves stories to comfort ourselves that, oh, I'm having a down year, or this year's been really difficult because the market's bad, or because interest rates are high, or because no one wants to move, their mortgage payments are too high, everyone's locked into the 3% mortgage. It's just a tough time to be in the business. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is all of that can be true, and yet it's still a story you're telling yourself, right? Because Carrie's business growth over the last year just demolishes that narrative that you can use the market as an excuse, because you've built an incredibly successful business in your very first year in Huntsville. So take me back to the last year you were in Colorado Springs, and then
Mhm.
we'll just dive into your story, Carrie. What were you thinking when you moved from Colorado Springs to a new state? Did you think it would grow that fast? Were you already making plans of, hey, when I move there, here's what I'm going to do to be successful? Kind of take us back to the mindset of what that move was like for you, being you already had such a successful business in Colorado Springs that you were walking away from.
Mhm. Yeah, it was scary. I had to find another agent to take my database. Learned a lot of lessons from that. I didn't choose probably the best person to handle it because I've seen some of my past clients in Colorado listing with other agents, which has definitely missed referral opportunities. I handed her everything on a silver platter. So definitely, if you ever have to sell your business, choosing wisely is definitely a really important lesson, one that I had to learn. And it was just one of those things where it was a lot of unknowns. I didn't know where I was going to live, what part of town. And I hadn't known about platform yet. I hadn't known how I was going to be successful. There is a tiny caveat that needs to be said. I tried and failed at starting an expansion team a couple years ago in Huntsville. Still really didn't know anybody except like the agents that I had tried to grow that team quit real estate. And but I did start this Facebook group, but it was only barely 1,000 people when I took it over. So I do want to at least say that, because I knew at least I had that Facebook group that I could lean on. But that doesn't, a Facebook group by itself does not normally create almost 100 transactions unless you do it correctly. And so I did have that little tiny thing that I did a couple years ago that clearly saved me. And the reason why I was going to do an expansion from Colorado to Huntsville is because they were going to move Space Command from Colorado Springs to Huntsville. It was actually this huge thing.
And is that Space Force when you say Space Command,
No,
or?
Space Command is different than Space Force. But it was this whole thing, if you follow military type stuff a couple of years ago, that they were fighting over who was going to get Space Command. So I thought I was, really smart. And I was said, okay, I'll do a team there and then basically catch all those referrals.
Sure, sure.
That definitely flopped on its side. My last year in Colorado, I had slowed down because I knew I was moving and just a lot of transition. So I really didn't know what to expect. And then when I got here, I still had,
And how long had you been a realtor in Colorado Springs, just so we have some context there?
since 2018. So 5 years in Colorado
Okay,
Springs.
so it had taken you 5+ years to build up a business to the point that you were selling
Yes.
100+ homes a year.
Yes, correct. Yes. I
And
had,
in Colorado Springs, again, I'm asking these questions just so people listening know that, because I don't know the answers, because we haven't discussed any of this ahead of time. So
Nope.
I'm asking these questions honestly because I want to know.
Yeah.
When you say that you sold, was it 120? How many in Colorado Springs was it?
Yeah, in 2021, that was my biggest year. It was about 120 homes in
Okay.
2021.
Did you have a team of 20 agents selling those homes, or was it just you, or what did that look like?
I had a team and I was pretty much doing everything. In June of 2021,
I've never heard that before.
I
No one's
know,
ever
right?
told me that before.
At the mastermind, there was a whole session on this. Yes.
I think we actually have a platform mastermind speaker every year. It's just a slot we have every
Yeah.
year of, I started a team and here's all the things that went wrong, right?
Yeah, I could
You have
talk
these-
about that the whole time.
you have these really, really impressive production numbers, and then
Yeah.
you look at like the line item and it's, oh, the team leader is doing 80% of the sales.
Yes. Yeah. In June 2021, I had 25 closings. And I also remember in November, I don't remember how many closings I had, but I remember my market center leader, I actually had a major surgery that month and I made $100,000 in commission that month.
Wow.
I just remember him saying, oh my gosh, of course you don't get to keep all that. I wish, but it was just, that was a big year for me. And I did have a
Yeah.
team, but they were just pretty much complaining the whole time that I wasn't giving them enough leads. And yeah,
What would you say, the exact percentage isn't important, but what would you say just approximately, if you sold 120 homes, how many of those were your personal deals where you were the agent on the transaction?
honestly, I would say 100. And yeah, it was about 100. Yeah.
So you did about 100 of the 120 some. So I think it's really important that people realize that this is not a situation where she's like, "Hey, I had a team and we sold 120 homes and you personally only sold 12 of them or something," right?
Right.
Like, no. Even if you didn't have a team, you still would have sold 100 homes that year by yourself. So, you were like not just a successful agent, but an extremely successful agent in Colorado Springs, and yet you decided to move. And I always think
Yeah.
this is fascinating because if you own, a successful CrossFit gym or a successful manufacturing facility, or you're a dentist, or I don't know, like there's all sorts of different businesses you could own, right?
Yeah.
Moving to a new city isn't that big of a leap, because if you're a successful dentist, you know, in Colorado, you're going to be a successful dentist in Alabama, right? The same things
Totally.
transfer.
Yeah.
But real estate is a relationship business where it's like the specific relationships with individuals that you had in Colorado don't transfer to
Hmm.
Alabama, right? You have to start truly from scratch. And there aren't very many businesses like that where the main asset is the relationships themselves.
Yeah.
Like you truly are starting from scratch, from zero. And so that just makes it even more incredible that you were willing to walk away from a business that you were selling 100 homes a year, because you were that confident that you could recreate that success in Huntsville, Alabama. So, okay, you moved to Huntsville.
Yes.
You had started this Facebook group. Is it Moving to Huntsville? Is that what it was
Moving to
called?
Huntsville. Yes, that's
Okay.
what it's called. Yep. And so when I moved, the agents that I had on my little expansion team, they weren't doing anything with the group at all. It was kind of just there. And there it was flooded with other agents, and it was just kind of, there was no organization. It was just a mess. And eventually I was able to remove them, and I took over the group and quickly became, I kind of really was able to um, just have myself be the Huntsville expert, even though I was always really nervous when people would ask me how long I've lived in Huntsville, because I was like, ooh. And so
Yeah.
just I and the thing is too,
You're
my
like,
page.
I was born and raised, roll
Yeah.
tide.
Well, I actually do. If this is a really important for agents that are wanting to specialize in relocation and things like if that's going to be your niche, make sure you've actually done it. That's like big to me. I see and this is not smack talking agents. If you've done this and you're successful, great. I applaud you, but it's really difficult to relate to people that are having to make a huge move, and they move to a new place and they don't know anybody, and you've never done it yourself. There's different aspects that are important to know. And if you've grown up in one area and never moved, it's hard to know what that's like.
There's a reason why, too. I think many agents who are like extremely successful working with military families that are going through the PCS process, right? That often their spouse, whether it's the husband or wife,
Mhm.
was a member
Right.
or is a member of the military, where they have gone through that themselves. They know all the lingo, they know all the phrases and the terminology and all the different bases around the US. They don't have to
Mhm.
like look it up. They know if you name such and such base, you're talking about this town, or
Right.
there's
Right.
there's a reason that happens, is because you immediately have that level of trust and familiarity if you know
Yes.
someone else is also an Army wife or
Right.
Navy or Air Force, whatever.
Yeah, it's a good way to connect with people. I'm big about I'm very good at converting. When I first talk to people, I find something that is something that I could relate to them with. So, of course, if somebody's moving, I'll say, "Oh, I moved here from Colorado. And I don't, some agents will immediately say, oh, I love living here. This is where I live. You should totally move here. I really pride myself in giving people resources to find where their best place to live is. And how I've done that is through guides. I always offer value in my group. I don't just, a lot of realtors that I've seen that run Facebook groups, it's pretty much just an advertisement of their business. And, here's, a house I have for sale, and here's, congratulations to these people that closed, and that's all they're posting. I rarely post things like, I mean, I do once in a while. Obviously, I still have to try to advertise a little bit, but more so what I try to do is I try to somehow get people in my retargeting through platform. And so that is really important to me, to kind of couple the two, my Facebook group and then directing them to platform where I'm then retargeting them. Because even if they're in my Facebook group, I can't necessarily, they're not always, everybody in my Facebook group has not used me as a realtor. Like they
Right,
haven't,
for sure.
right?
For sure. Well, probably 99% of them
A
haven't.
lot of them have, yes, which is really, it becomes, now that I've built it up, now I do have people coming into my inbox, but that took a really
Yeah.
long time, because I had to not only find people um, that I worked with that would be my cheerleaders, right? That would give me recommendations on posts and things like that. But then I also had to find just a way to show that I was the person that can help you with your move. And I learned, first thing I did, I learned the area really well, did some driving around. Like I said, created all of these guides. I mean, I have guides for everything: school districts, pool neighborhoods with pools, just little things.
When you say guides, just to get really
Mhm.
specific here,
Yeah.
do you mean like a 5-page PDF report, a 1-page PDF? Like when you say a guide on local schools, like what specifically are you talking about?
Yeah. So I have a guide to different school districts in Huntsville. So my kids are Huntsville City Schools, let's say, for example. So it would be Huntsville City Schools. Here's the stats on Huntsville City Schools. Here's the, number of students. Here's their test scores. And then going on to the next area, there's a map. I also have a high schools guide as well. So if basically I would really pay attention to my group, and if people asked questions, I would, and enough people were asking questions, time to make a guide about it. So
Sure.
daycares, I have one about that.
Oh,
A
that's
lot of
good.
people ask
That's good.
that. So I would so then that is a way for me to add a level of value to somebody. And so now they have my guide. Great. And then I've also found a way that in my welcome to the group, you can do an automatic post when 25 people join your group. And I have a link to my Flow Desk for my relocation guide, and I get so many opt-ins. I started my Flow Desk, I would say probably last September, and I have over 800 subscribers in it. And I get very salty when people unsubscribe from my emails, but I
Yep.
I only I only send emails of value. I will
Yeah.
send out a weekly what's happening in Huntsville email, just events in Huntsville. And some people really have told me, they're like, I look forward to your email every week and things like that. So um yeah, so I've just pretty much found a way
So
to.
as you create these guides, I think it's important too that when you think about what can I create a guide about, it should be something that saves someone 5 to 10 minutes of Google searching.
Yes.
Because too often I think when agents think about creating, whether it's a guide or some sort of, maybe you're thinking about filming a YouTube video or even making a Facebook post, whatever, some sort of like informational resource, right? Like
Mhm.
a PDF or whatever. Like it's something that's too obvious to where someone could already find the answer in like a 10-second Google search.
Right.
And like no one's going to be willing to like trade their name and email and contact information or join your Facebook group or whatever for something that they could find in a literal 10-second Google search, especially now that Google's rolling out more AI in their search results. Like search has gotten a lot better, I think, in the last year than even, it was just a year ago. The more like qualitative information, like true local wisdom, even when you're inserting your opinions into some of this stuff that they can't necessarily get, even with spending 5 or 10 minutes, searching on Google, that's what makes a guide truly valuable. So I actually love the idea of doing like a daycare guide, local schools, like it's the kind of insights and information that you wouldn't be able to get by just searching on Google for 30 seconds.
Right. Right.
Because
exactly.
that does legitimately save someone a lot of time. Even neighborhoods, like you could make like a neighborhood guide, and Carrie, you've probably already done this, but you could make a neighborhood guide and actually list, here's the downsides of all these neighborhoods that no one talks about, right? Because that's certainly not going to pop up in a Google search.
No.
Usually people will find, oh, I love the location of this neighborhood, or I love the proximity to parks or playgrounds or such and such. It's like, okay, but what are the downsides of the various neighborhoods, or what do people who live there not really like about it? So think about, again, what would not show up in a Google search, because especially that we're in this era of artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and all the various search engines, whether it's Google or anyone else, they're starting to factor in AI into all this. Search is about to get a lot better. So you need to start asking yourself in the coming years, how can I put out information that they wouldn't be able to necessarily find in a normal Google search, because it's actually not anywhere on the internet. Like, keep in mind that any AI can only grab what's already out there. It's not necessarily synthesizing new knowledge. So if you're putting information out there about your opinions on various restaurants or neighborhoods or school districts or daycares or whatever, right? That stuff is not going to show up in a normal Google search. And so it makes your informational PDF resource that much more valuable. So I love that you're doing that. And again, I'm learning all this stuff for the first time that you were doing all this. So that's incredible. So now I'm like, okay, I'm actually not as surprised anymore that she sold 75 homes in her first year, because look at all the things she's doing to just immediately build a brand in that city.
Yeah, I think it's really, I see a lot of things that I've learned a lot, obviously, over the years. But one of the things that I've learned is that people, I don't know how to best say this, but I'll kind of explain it after I say it. People want to talk about themselves. So when you connect with somebody and you just say, "Oh yeah, I can sell you a house," right? People they want to tell that. My first thing is always, tell me about yourself, your family, what's bringing you to Huntsville. Oh, you have kids? Can I send you my school district guide? That's how I get people to message me all the time. I had the other day, somebody posted about looking for information on cities kind of within 20 to 30 minutes of Huntsville. Another guide I made was surrounding cities of Huntsville, because a lot of people don't want to live right in Huntsville, so I made a guide of just other cities that you could live in. So someone, and I wasn't like, "Hey, nice to meet you," and put my little card, and I'm a realtor. I literally just commented and I said, "Hey, I have a guide for surrounding cities of Huntsville. Happy to send it over to you." I got like 6 other comments from other people right underneath. "Oh, I would love that too. I would love that too. I'd love that too." Great. And so I to also see how serious people were, I said, "Great, DM me and I'll be happy to send it to you." And now they see my guide, they see me as a resource. I collected some of their emails, but I don't always push for that, because then people kind of don't build your trust right away, right? So I'll say, "Hey."
I feel like in 2024, I mean, honestly, we're almost in 2025, probably when this episode will come out.
Yeah.
You have to be very, very strategic in what you choose to gate with an email address, because people do not want to give out their name and email and phone number.
Yeah.
just to download a PDF, anymore. I mean, even signing up for platform, we don't gate any, and we used to. So like it used to be that you had to give your name, email, phone number, blah blah blah, to even get information about pricing for platform. But like several years ago, we changed that, where if you go on our website, like everything is there. What we do, you can get our pricing, you can hop on a call with us. At no point do you have to give us your email. You could sign up for platform, and the very first time you ever give us your email is like when you're filling out the form to sign up, because we've just
Hmm.
realized people do not want this experience where they're on some email list and everything is guarded with, hey, give us your name and email before we share any information with you. So
Right.
what you just said is very, very key to making the strategy work.
Hmm.
That give 99% of the stuff away for free without asking for any contact information,
Hmm.
and you build up that social capital, and then people trust you more.
Right, right. So I said, in the message, when they messaged me, I said, do you prefer I send it over Facebook Messenger, or do you want to send me your email address? So I gave them a choice. Some people gave me their email address. I was like, okay, but I didn't put them in my email list, because the only people that go on my email list are the people that opt in to the relocation guide, because I got to do it at some point. I got to do it somewhere. It is part of my
Yep.
strategy, obviously. I
Yep.
know it's part of a lot of people's strategies, and it's smart, but not doing that all the time, kind of like you said. And then so that is my biggest advice to agents, is leading with value. And then another thing that obviously I was so thankful to find platform when I first moved here, because my face, that has taken a long time to build up, and it's a giant work in progress still. It's going to be, there's different things that I'm learning on how to do uh better things with it. Platform was absolutely key to my strategy, and no, Tim did not tell me to say this, just so everybody knows. This is my honest, if you are moving to a new area, check if the best advice I can give, check if your market is available, because it will make you an instant celebrity. People now, it took a while, it takes a while to build up, but people just all know that everybody knows I'm a realtor. Everybody thinks that I have this Huntsville knowledge, which now I do, obviously have a lot of it. But that was definitely key to my success as well, besides my group, was getting that exposure that I wouldn't have gotten normally,
Sure.
because it just made me the local celebrity, as somebody said to me the other day. Fellow realtors all the time, I have people calling me all the time,
So
who's your
you've had people in real life tell you that they see your social media.
Oh, all the time. I mean, all the time. I went on a field trip for my daughter last year, and this parent was like, I know you from somewhere. And I was like, okay. She was not familiar to me. And I was like, okay. And then
Well,
she,
again, like if you went on a field trip with your kid last year, like you had at that point probably moved to Alabama just a couple months before that.
right.
So you
Yes.
you were literally brand new to the city and state.
Yes, I was. And she said, "Oh, I know where I know you from. I watch your Facebook videos. I love them." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." And just the other day, I went to a meeting for my market center and met somebody, and she said, "Hi, nice to meet you." And then she goes, "Oh my gosh, you're Carrie Denny. You're a local Facebook celebrity." And I said, "Oh, well, thank you." And
That's
I've
cool.
had agents call me, beg me to tell them what my marketing is. And I'm like, I'll tell you, you're not going to be able to use it, but I'll tell you all day long.
That's cool.
So,
So
yeah.
as you're saying this, again, we don't script these interviews. So I didn't send Carrie a list of questions ahead of time. I have no idea what she's gonna say. So that's what makes these interviews fun for me too, because I'm learning what's working for you just as the audience is learning as they're listening to these episodes. But it it occurs to me that if you're running these kind of like simultaneous strategies adjacent to each other, like you have this Facebook group strategy, and the overall platform strategy that's kind of running in parallel with it. Maybe you've never even thought about this before, but as I'm like observing from a third party perspective, one thing that probably allows you to lead with value first in the Facebook group and not be too pushy and not feel like you have to constantly ask them for, hey, what's your name, email, and phone number? Or, hey, try to set appointments with everyone, or
Mhm.
basically being too salesy in the group, right?
Mhm.
One thing that allows you to do that without fear of like, oh, am I missing out on business by not being more salesy, is you have the peace of mind that knowing that running parallel to all this is the platform strategy.
Mhm.
So people are probably seeing you all over Facebook regardless, because a lot of these people are on your retargeting list. And so you don't have to be as salesy in the Facebook group because you know that they're constantly seeing your retargeting ads on the other side of this. And so that actually makes it more effective in the long run. And it kind of creates this 1+1=3 effect, because the less salesy you are in the group, the more money you're going to make in the long run because people trust you more. But also, I think most people wouldn't be willing to do that. Like, they wouldn't be willing to not be salesy if they didn't have something like platform running in parallel, because you would just naturally, as a human being, you would think, well, I don't want to leave money on the table. I need to be salesy at some point because people need to know who I am. So I think
Absolutely.
it's a really cool combination to have platform running in parallel with your Facebook group strategy. Um, and it just leads to more people trusting you faster.
Mhm. Exactly. Yep. Yep.
So you got started with this, I mean, really less than a year ago, doing this Facebook group strategy platform. I mean, how long have you been with platform? I mean, it's not a
June
year.
20, yeah, June 2023. So,
Okay, so it was
yeah,
June
little over a
2023.
year, not much. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, for some reason I was thinking that we met at that conference in April, but you had been a client since summer of last year.
We did meet at the conference in April.
We did. Okay, so that was just
That's
first
where
time
we
we met in
met, like
person.
face to face. I didn't go to the mastermind last year because my kid had a cheer competition.
You were at the
So,
mastermind this year, though. I remember I
I
saw you there. So
was.
yeah, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how was that, by the way?
Amazing. Loved it. Yeah. It was super, super fun and really enjoyed, the diversity of the speakers and definitely recommend to anybody that's wondering if they should go.
Oh yeah, I love the masterminds, and speakers are great and sessions are great, but just getting to meet people in person and going out to lunch with someone or grabbing dinner or drinks with someone, or in this case we were at Disney World, so it's like going to a park maybe with someone at night or whatever, just like getting to know some of the people that are in the Facebook group and actually hanging out with them in real life just completely changes your perception of the value of those relationships, both for referrals and having referral partners maybe in some cities you didn't know someone before, but also just all these people in the Facebook group, if you've actually had a 5-minute, 10-minute conversation with them, they now feel like an actual friend.
Right.
So it turns that platform network, we call it the platform family, into feeling more like an actual family if you've met people in real life.
Right. Absolutely.
So you got all this started again less than a year ago. First year in a new market, you're going to sell 75 homes. Let's get really granular and talk about what, like, on a weekly basis in that Facebook group, how many times are you posting, and what type of posts in a given week go out? Like, what would a typical week look like in that Facebook group?
Well, I have a lot of, luckily, I get a lot of people asking questions, so I get other people that interact as well. But I'll share like local events that are going on. I had this idea a couple weeks ago actually to go and do a Facebook Live, um, and shared my screen and showed like one of my listings and basically like just showed the screen and like clicked through the pictures and showed the area and where the house is and like talk about that area so people can just learn different areas, different houses that are there, the prices for what you get for the square footage, things like that. So I just also will um, I have like a couple of automatic posts that go out, like share an event that people shouldn't miss that goes out. every Thursday. And then, yeah, just pretty much interacting with people and answering questions.
So would you say in a given week you're making like 2 or 3 posts
Yeah.
plus all the questions you're answering?
Yeah, definitely. Hmm.
So it's, probably a lot more than 2 or 3 posts because again, you're answering a lot of people's questions who will post in there. So you're very active in the comments,
Yeah.
which is what makes a Facebook group feel like a Facebook group. I feel like that needs to be said, that a lot of people, when they think about Facebook groups, and I'm certainly guilty of this at times too, even in the platform family Facebook group, that we think of like everything as like top down in a Facebook group. So, hey, I'm the admin, I'm the creator of the group. My job is to make posts. It's like, well, if that's all you ever do, if the group is just you shouting at people, right? Because all you ever do is make posts, but then you're not actively engaged in the comments,
Yes.
it
Yes.
doesn't really feel like a group, and people
Yes.
won't really trust you. I think you earn and you build 10 times as much social capital by like thoughtfully engaging in the comments of posts than you do making posts,
Yeah,
right? So like
absolutely.
if you're going to take the time to write a couple paragraphs and make a post in the group, like that's great, and people will think, oh, it's cool, she's active in her own group. It's like, well, I'd hope so, right? I hope you're making posts in your own group. But what really shows that you care about the members of the group and you care about the community itself is when someone asks a question like you just said, and you take the time in the comments of that post to write a paragraph or two where you're not just writing a quick sentence just so you can say, hey, I replied to this person, right? But you're actually thoughtfully writing a detailed response.
Hmm.
That's, if you do that enough and you do that consistently enough, that's what makes people think, wow, like this Carrie person like really cares about the members of this group, and this does feel like a genuine community, right? It's not just her broadcasting posts about new restaurants opening up whenever that happens in the community or whatever, because like there are plenty of other Facebook groups and Facebook pages, whatever, that people can follow if they just want updates on new businesses opening in the town,
Sure.
right? But if you're actually engaging and answering questions, that's what allows people to feel like, like you're giving them a reason to trust you.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
So as you launched this, this Facebook group strategy, and you look at the deals you've closed, to be about 75 deals closed by year end, again, your very first year in Huntsville. If you were to make a pie chart about, hey, where did my business come from? I know that the answer is that it depends, because people ask us the same question about platform all the time. Like, but where do you think the various business is coming from? Of the 75 deals, what percentage approximately would you attribute to the Facebook group strategy versus platform versus any other lead sources you may have? Does it all kind of mesh together? I guess, how would you even start to answer that question? Because I know that everyone's thinking that is, oh my God, she moved to a new town, sold 75 homes. How many of those homes are because of the Facebook group? How many are because of platform? How many are because you're buying Zillow leads? Or what does that breakdown look like, if you can even begin to answer that question?
Um, I think that it's a mixture because it's a lot of like, yeah, I get stuff from my Facebook group, but then it's also a lot of like relationship building, and just people seeing my retargeting, being in my group, interacting with me, and it's kind of a long-term thing sometimes. But I also will have people recommending me. I will have people going in and just, talking about their experience working with me. And I don't tell them to do that, so it's just all of those kind of things mixed together. I think it's hard to kind of put a number on each strategy.
I kind of figured you'd say that, but I wanted to ask the question anyways, because people ask us that about platform all the time, right? Like, well, of your successful clients, like how much of their business comes from platform? It's like the honest answer is that if I gave you a specific percentage, I'd probably be lying to you. And I don't want to start the relationship by lying to you, because the way that human relationships work is that the answer to how did you build this relationship is always a multivariable, question and answer. So if I asked you, like, how did you get your husband to marry you? Or if I ask a husband, how did you get your, wife to marry you? That's not a single sentence answer. It's not like, well, I took her to dinner at this Italian restaurant and I wore a blue shirt because I knew that blue's her favorite color. And then she married me. It's like, we'd all laugh at how simplistic and dumb that answer is. Like,
Yeah.
you can't reduce a question of that scope to like, how did you get your husband or wife to fall in love with you and marry you? Because the answer is like dozens and dozens of things over time led you towards this conclusion that we fell in love and got married, right? Same thing with a real estate transaction, because it's a relationship. That's what they have in common, is you're building a relationship. So if you have this kick-ass Facebook group and you're working the platform strategy in parallel with that, I'm imagining that there's a ton of people that you've either helped buy, or sell their home this year, where they met you through the Facebook group and they engaged in there a little bit and they built some trust, but then they also got on your retargeting list because of maybe a post you made in the group. And then they started seeing all of your platform retargeting ads, and that reinforced their trust with
Mhm.
you because they kept seeing you constantly. And then they decided to list with you, or then they decided to buy a house. And so it's like, how do you really attribute that? Was it the Facebook group, or was it platform, or was it these things that you were doing in real life, the events? Like, well, the answer is all of the above.
Right, exactly.
And it could have worked the other way too, where someone first found you on Facebook through a platform ad, and then they found the Facebook group, and then they realized, oh wow, I already knew that she's a realtor, and I love these ads, and now I'm getting to know her deeper in the Facebook group, and the Facebook group reinforces all these positive first impressions you had with the retargeting ads. And again, you can't really say, well, that's a platform lead or that's a Facebook group lead, because the answer is just all of the above, right? But you know that people are seeing your retargeting ads, and you know that people are getting value from the Facebook group because the Facebook group continues growing. There's more engagement in there. So you kind of know it's working. It's all working together, but it's hard to put a percentage on it.
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, really the only number that matters is that you're going to sell 75 homes there in your first year. So I think like any explanation that attempts to be like it's this or that, it's like, well, all that matters is that you're going to make a shit ton of money this year selling homes in a down market,
Yeah.
right? Like in a objectively bad market, you're having an absolutely elite year in your first year as an agent there.
Thank
So
you.
clearly what you're doing is working. And what makes this interesting is I bet you could move to some other area of the country. You could move to Flagstaff, Arizona, or you could move to Idaho, or you could move to Ohio or whatever. And you could probably recreate the same levels of success because you're not just getting lucky, right? You have a system that works. You've built the Facebook groups, you're using platform marketing, you'd done it before in Colorado Springs. So you have a system that works, and you're just applying that system to a new market, and you're getting repeatable results. So it's not luck, right? It's certainly not luck.
Definitely not me, especially.
It's certainly not luck if you did this in 2024 in such a down year in the real estate market, right? I mean, you have every excuse in the world for having a bad year
Mhm.
this year. Like, hey, I moved to a new city, new state. I didn't know anyone. The market was bad. Interest rates were in the sevens. You had every single possible excuse to basically just take the year off and have a bad year and just chalk it up to, well, the economy's bad. And yet, that's not happening because what you're doing is working.
Yeah.
What are some of the most engaging ads that you've run? If you look back at the last, I mean, what has it been? I guess almost 18 months now, a platform.
Yeah.
What have been some of the highest engaging ads where, like, not necessarily maybe where you got the most like leads from, but ads where like people were telling you in real life, oh, I love such and such photo or such and such video, where you got like feedback in real life from the ads?
Oh man, that happens all the time. I'm trying to think if there was one in particular that people really liked. I mean, people just always say that the one that I did one where I was riding around on a kid's like go-kart, and people commented on that and liked that. I got quite a few comments on that. And then I don't know. A lot of my picture posts, just people will be like, "Oh, I saw that. That was funny." That was probably, I'm trying to think, probably just the go-kart one was a big one. And then I got a lot of engagement on the "How old were you when you first bought a house" ad.
Okay, while you were answering that, I just Googled because I was curious. I just looked it up that Huntsville actually has nearly um nearly a 250,000 people.
Hmm.
I didn't know that. I mean, I knew Huntsville was a big city. I've, been there several times. I didn't realize it had nearly 250,000 people. It's actually larger, according to Google, than Birmingham,
Yeah.
Alabama is. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So as you're saying all this, it's even just reframing my understanding of your success. It makes it even more impressive because there's always some people who might listen to this and be like, wow, yeah, she's successful in some small town in Alabama. Well, of course she is because, like, do they even have a running water and Wi-Fi there? Some tiny town in Alabama. My market is more sophisticated. My market, that's just a constant narrative we hear that, oh, that's great, but I don't think that would work in my market because my clients are so much more, affluent, or they're so much more educated, sophisticated, et cetera. It's like Huntsville has 250,000 people. And I'm sure the broader population is even larger because that's not necessarily counting all the, suburbs and like the Huntsville region.
Yeah.
It's a very educated area as well because it's where NASA and the space program, people often think, oh, Houston, or they think Cape Canaveral with space, but like most of the actual research and stuff is done in Huntsville, Alabama. That's where the
Yeah.
space program really
Yep.
lives and breathes, is Huntsville. So very educated, sophisticated area. And yet you came there again in your first year and still sold 75 homes. So this is not I moved to a small town in the middle of nowhere and took over a small city where there was no competition, right? There are plenty of agents in Huntsville, Alabama that, are trying to capture that growing market because it is kind of a boom town. Like the area is growing like crazy in the last 10 years. So, um, I'm sure in some ways it feels similar to Colorado Springs for you, because Colorado Springs has kind of been on that same growth arc in the last 5-10 years, where it's just grown a lot from what it was, just 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But Huntsville is, I guess the point I'm trying to make in this rant is Huntsville is a modern, educated city. It's not like she
Yeah.
moved to a small town, just kicked ass in a small town because the realtors there weren't using social media or something. You've had a lot of competition there.
There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of good agents here too. So, yeah.
Have you tried any other marketing strategies, Carrie, that didn't work? Well, it's like, hey, I tried doing this and it didn't work, or I tried this and it didn't work for me.
I don't know. Not really. I mean, I really don't. Like once I found platform, I kind of just, like I don't think buying leads necessarily works. I think it can work if you have a lot of follow up and things like that. But for me, I really think that the authentic touch and the authentic, um, just the like, not just calling somebody because they inquired and that's it. Like just taking the time to really build a relationship with people is the best marketing strategy that you could do, for sure.
And so you said building a relationship with people is the best marketing strategy. As founder, CEO platform, that's always what I've tried to, like, uh I've tried to communicate that that's what we're trying to do with the platform
Right.
strategy,
Yep.
is just use paid marketing strategies and funnels and Facebook ads, retargeting ads, etc., to just help you build relationships. It's not about the ads, it's not about the clicks, it's not about the leads. It's
Mm-hmm.
about using paid ads in a way that helps you build relationships with more people faster
Yep.
than you otherwise would be able to. So
Yes.
it's cool hearing you saying that. How would you describe, like, if someone asked you, hey, I heard you're doing this platform thing, how would you describe it in like your own words of what is the platform strategy, or how is it different from other marketing programs out there?
It's just unique in the way that there's a lot of out of the box type things which gets people to notice your ads. Um, and I just really like the different, like, cool ideas, like take a picture of yourself with a piece of toast with beans on it, and, like, it's not your typical that was 4th of July, and it's not your typical 4th of July ad. It's really, it's much more than that. It's showing in a history of 4th of July in a different way that people aren't talking about, and
It's just not the cliche post you would
it's
see
right.
on.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
different. It gets people's attention, people engage with it. And
And by the
so,
way, like for all the people listening who have absolutely no idea what she's talking about, one of our favorite posts to run is on a day like Independence Day, right? Like we'll have you take a picture of like literally like canned beans and you put it on a piece of toast because that's actually a somewhat famous dish in England is they eat beans on toast. And Americans see that and we're like, that is absolutely disgusting. Who would eat that?
uh
And so we just write a post about this is why the war was necessary, is because we didn't have to, like we didn't want to raise our families having to eat this trash. So we decided to go to war with England and we won. So American kids don't have to eat that
yep.
anymore. It's kind of just a fun way to like pop up in people's newsfeed on 4th of July. That's not just the super cliche stereotypical, here's an American flag waving and I put my broker logo in the corner and say Happy Independence Day.
Yes, exactly. Which is what most people do, right? So when somebody does something different, that's the platform strategy, is just standing out from the crowd. So,
Are there any other like marketing strategies that are maybe top of mind for you right now that you want to try in the next year but you haven't yet started, or is the plan just to keep doing what you're doing and do it even better in 2025? Because I mean obviously what you're doing is working. So
um I don't really know off the top of my head. I think probably honestly doing more content with platform is probably my only strategy that I have, because I get kind of busy and tied up in the everyday stuff. And
yeah,
so I need to be more mindful about time blocking to film more content and just do more things. So that's pretty
she's like
much my only
I
strategy.
get kind of busy. I don't know if you heard, but I do sell 75 homes a year in Huntsville. So
Yeah. Yep.
that's okay. That's a great answer, because I was gonna say if you sold that many homes in your first year, I would not change a thing. I would just keep doing what
No.
you're doing, because your business is going to grow year over year as those people refer you more, obviously. So even if you didn't change a thing, I bet next year you'll sell over 100 homes, right? Not
Yeah.
75, and just from what you're doing, continuing to snowball. So
Yeah.
in terms of budget, I want to talk a little bit about specifics about where your money is going in terms of, marketing budget as we wrap this up, just so people can kind of get a sense of like, okay, you're selling this many homes, but is it because you're spending $10,000 a month on marketing or 20 grand a month on marketing? Like, what is your platform ads budget every month? If you're doing any community events or client appreciation events, or like, are you spending money on that? Like, what does your marketing allocation look like every month?
So I believe my ad spend is around 1,000 a month. And
Okay.
then I do pour a lot into my clients. I do a couple of client appreciation events every month. Not every month, every year.
I was gonna say,
Um,
damn.
no, not that many. I did what did I do? The pumpkin patch. I did like Christmas mini like photo shoot. So yeah, so I'll do like little pop-up events like a, women's like paint night, like a girls' night out type of
Sure.
thing. And then um I also like to just kind of send people gifts, just randomly. Like if I have a lot of people that will tag me or something, I'll just be like, hey, thanks so much for supporting my business, and just send them a little something. And not planned, like I don't say like, hey guys, everybody go tag me and I'll give you this, not the illegal way.
Yeah.
But and it's
Yeah.
not every time, just if I see somebody like tagging me over and over again, sometimes I'll send them something nice and just say, hey, your support means so much to me, thank you. Trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, just a lot of like client gifts too. Like I think there's a lot to be said about, a lot of people spend a lot of money trying to allocate, new, like towards new leads and new business. And people don't spend, a lot of agents don't spend enough time and money to invest in their people,
Totally.
because those are the people that are going to get you a lot of your business.
Yeah, I think when
So,
you look at where your marketing budget is being spent, whether you've been in the business 2 years or 10 years or more, you should always be spending more on your current database than you spend on bringing new business in. And yet, like, so, whether your budget is $10,000 a month or $500 a month, I think 51% or more of your budget should always be spent on serving and staying top of mind with your existing database.
Mm-hmm.
And a minority of that money should be spent bringing in new leads. Because if you're constantly having to generate new leads with total strangers, what that tells me is you're not getting enough referrals from your existing database. So you should solve that problem first before you try to grow with complete strangers, who don't actually know you. So you're in Huntsville. What is the average price point in Huntsville? Is it what, 300, 400?
Yeah,
Like,
it's about 350, I would say. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, you're again selling 75 homes a year, average price point somewhere in the mid to upper threes, maybe. So this is not a market where, all the homes are $800,000, and so it's easy to get massive commission checks. But it's also not a low price market where, hey, all the homes are $180,000, where everyone's a first time home buyer and you have to just scrap to. It's kind of right in that middle range where there's a lot of competition.
Oh yeah,
frankly,
lots. Yes. Yep.
And I've heard you say the phrase market center several times, so I assume you're with a KW.
I am.
And okay, yep. And there's a lot of like internal competition there, because obviously I know that a priority of KW is that you do lots of trainings and events with other agents. So like other agents in your area are seeing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And that's what I think is so interesting too, is like people will look at what you're doing. They can even listen to this hour-long platform podcast episode, and you basically shared exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
Even getting down to the details of, here's the guides I write, here's what I put in the guides, here's how I built this Facebook group, here's how I use platform alongside of that. And yet 99.99% of people are still not going to copy you because they're not willing to do the work that it takes to make this all work.
Yep, exactly.
Like you've given all the recipe away, and yet people are not willing to actually bake the cake because they don't want to follow the recipe. They want the cake handed to them.
Yep.
Right? They're not willing to actually build a Facebook group, because when they start a group and it has 0 members, it's just intimidating looking at, oh my gosh, there's no members in this group. How do I ever get it to have 6,000 members the way that, Carrie has done it? And yet again, I bet if you moved again and you moved to California or you moved to South Carolina or, whatever, I bet you could recreate the same results, because you've done it in both Colorado Springs and Huntsville now.
Yeah.
You have a recipe, and that recipe works. It's not luck. It's not the market. You're just following a proven recipe, and that works. So I'll just finish, Carrie, by saying I think this is really cool that we've come like full circle to this moment where, I don't know if it was 6 months ago or a year ago, even, you were like, hey, you're going to interview me eventually on the platform podcast because I'm going to become a success story and my business is going to blow up. And like, I just want you to know you'll be interviewing me. And I was like, okay, like, we'll see. Like, I'm obviously never going to be like, no, I'm not going to, because I want you to succeed. You're a platform client. But I went back and searched in my chat history this morning with Jordan, because Jordan's your account manager at Platform.
Yep.
And so there's a message with me and Jordan from, I think, like 7 or 8 months ago. And it said, hey, Jordan, random question. How is Carrie doing? Carrie has been messaging me asking if she can come on the Platform Marketing Show to share her success. And Jordan, like, give me updates and everything. So it's great that you're, at the point now where it's just like undeniable the success that you've had in your first year. Because I remember you telling, hey, I'm moving to a new city, I'm joining Platform, because you signed up for Platform basically right when you moved to Huntsville.
Right after I moved. It was like a couple weeks. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you're like, hey, I'm starting this in a brand new market. And so if this works for me, I'll know that Platform was part of it, because I literally do not know a single person who lives here. And now you're on the podcast and we're doing the episode about your success. And in your first full year there, you've sold, you'll have closed 75 deals by year's end. It's like, if you look at a chart of the number of agents, let's say in the greater Huntsville area, that have ever sold 75 homes in a year ever, that's a very small number of agents, right?
Yep.
very, very small number of agents, and that you did that in your first full year in Huntsville. I mean, that is just so incredibly uh, impressive.
Thank you.
I'll give you the last word, Carrie. If there's any closing thoughts or any piece of advice you want to share to any agents listening to this, whether they're in the platform or not,
Hmm.
just any advice of what you have learned has worked for you, or maybe why people fail when they try to replicate what you're doing. What are the most common mistakes of why they're not seeing success with a Facebook group? I mean, any closing thoughts that you want to share, I'll give you the last word.
Sure. For me, I just always like to tell people that it takes work to run a successful Facebook group. It's literally, like you said earlier, it's part of a strategy, and you need to have a plan, and you need to engage, and you need to be an active member, and you need to always lead with value. That is my biggest thing with, converting leads or talking to people or anything. I've seen posts from agents. Well, they'll say, "Oh, my daughter just joined a new dance studio. Should I tell everybody I'm an agent?" No. Meet people, be authentic, just be your authentic self, and everything will come later. And especially if you're in platform, if your market is available, just do it. Do not hesitate. That is the greatest thing I've ever done for my business. And I am very blessed to be part of the platform family. And it really honestly has helped me just continue to be my authentic self and just show the value that I have as an agent and honestly as a person, because I believe that I'm a good person and I try to put out a lot of good into the world. So,
Carrie, I lied. I have one more question for you.
yes, Tim.
So we were just together. We were just together in person.
Mhm.
Again, this is just more proof that we don't script these interviews, right? Um, we were just together in person like a week ago at the Platform Mastermind. Is there any particular session or speaker where you're like, that was my favorite, that topic or that idea? Like, could you pinpoint one speaker or one insight that you're more excited about than others from the mastermind a week ago?
Yeah. Wow, there's a lot. But I would say actually there was two. One was my dear friend Lana, who I've known for years because I was in the same market as her. But a big actual realization that I had, because I always look up to agents that are also successful. And, it, I'm a very, I'm a person that like really has trouble, uh, just looking at myself and kind of, I know this is a downfall of mine, but I don't have great self-esteem. So I don't often put myself into categories as these other mega agents. But listening to Lana's speech and her presentation, I actually had this realization that I do all the same things that she does. And that was a big moment for me because I'm like, wow, like I always had a lot of respect for her because, again, I've known her forever. And I feel like, in some way, I'm kind of in the same category as her, which is so crazy to me. And I will continue to, it kind of, also pushed me to continue to grow to the level of success of, I'm obviously, I don't have as many homes sold as she does, but I'm doing all the right things. So it encouraged me to keep going and keep doing what I'm doing. And then Jared was amazing and very inspiring and really, to me, emphasized the point of, continuing to just do good for people and put good out into the world, and it'll kind of come back to you. So,
Awesome. I think you've done that on this podcast episode. I mean, the amount of value that you've given is really just an illustration of your strategy of building these Facebook groups, is that you've given away the recipe, you've given away everything. So thank you for your time. I know that we actually had to reschedule this episode because you got so busy today with, I think, multiple showings, closing, other stuff going on that we had to schedule this for the early morning to get it done. So thank you for your flexibility
Thank you.
in making that happen. And I'll just end by saying I actually had no idea that you were going to sell 75 homes this year.
Oh.
I had Jordan schedule this podcast episode because I thought it was really cool that you were in your first year in Huntsville and you had sold 30 or 40 homes. Like I thought you had sold like 30 or 40 homes. I actually had no idea you were even close to selling 75. So, I mean, that is absolutely bananas, and you should be really, really proud of yourself. I mean,
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
that's
Thank
insane.
you.
I don't think I've ever talked to someone in the 10 plus years I've been doing this who's moved to a brand new market and sold that many homes in their first year in a brand new market, especially in the down economic, year that we're having right now in the real estate market. So you should be incredibly proud of that. And thank you for sharing all this wisdom
Yeah, thank
with our
you.
audience.
Thank you so much. Thanks for making me feel good about myself. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, we'll see you on the next episode of the Platform Marketing Show. Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks.